All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the couple minutes delay here. Just had some tiny bit of technical difficulties with the webcam and stuff, getting all of that sorted. So, another one working on IncusOS. We've been doing quite a few tweaks and fixes. Thanks to everyone who's been giving us feedback on the forum using the new chat we've got there as well. I think we went through quite a few things. We've got quite a few more fixes coming up. So I'm gonna start going through that and then can go and take a look at Linstor, where we stand and what's coming in today's stream to basically wrap things up on that front, just adding something I had to do manually in my deployments that we want to correctly automate through the IncusOS API, and then we should be good to go with Linstor. All right, I'm just gonna refresh my working copy here of IncusOS on this machine. For that, I need to actually be able to type my password correctly, which is surprisingly difficult at times. Okay, cool. So let's look at what we have done over the past week here. Just scrolling down, so it's 2 days ago. So yeah, we've been busy. Here we go for this past week. So had some community contribution to improve the tailscale support a tiny bit, followed by a bug fix because tailscale messed up some of their build flags. And we ended up with a potentially crashing version of tailscale. So community member sent us a fix for that, got it merged. That's really good to have. Just some tweaks to the documentation. There's going to be a bunch of those, so I'm just going to skip over that. But we've added support to publish the new application, so Incus Ceph, Incus Linstor. So that was kind of the result of last week's live stream. I've got I effectively split things up, so we've got Incus, Incus Ceph, Incus Linstor now to avoid the size of the Incus image just ballooning out of control. So that's been done, and effectively, yeah, we've got the Linstor support merged. We've got the multi-application part of it also merged, and that's all properly merged and running now. Bit of cleanup we did. We wanted to add support for configuring a time zone. They don't really want to create a new config section just for it. Then we saw that we already had config for NTP. So we just generalized that section a tiny bit to be a time config instead, and now it does NTP and the time zone config. So there's a few commits related to that. What else do we have? So that's still all time zone related. And still time zone. Okay, updates of the tests, again, to support the Incus Ceph and Incus Linstor packages correctly. So that's been done. We had some folks running, I think it was mostly on Mini's forums, computers having some weird EFI issues. So we've tweaked things a bit to get a better error next time things go wrong. So that's this one effectively. We've also had a bunch of feedback from folks, I think mostly renting at Hetzner or VH and similar players, where they don't have too much control on the storage config, so they don't get to have a small high endurance boot drive that can be used for the OS, and then additional storage that can be raided together for the actual storage pool. Instead, they intend to get like 2 4 terabytes SSDs or something like that, and that's all that's in the machine. So we've relaxed logic a bit so that it's now possible to install on one of the drives, and then after the fact expand the local storage pool over to another drive, either in RAID 0, so you just do striping across, which is a bad idea for redundancy, or you can do RAID 1. It's not gonna RAID the rest of the data, so the OS and everything, it's still on a single drive, but the actual instances and Incus data does get replicated, which means that worst case scenario, if you do lose the wrong drive, you can still reinstall, restore a backup pretty easily, re-import the pool, and you'll be back in business. So it's not a full RAID 1 config, but it's RAID 1 for the data that actually matters. I think we've also added that to our tutorial section, how to do it. So that should be covered now. What else do we have? So it was still documentation related. I fixed a couple of issues I noticed when doing some Linstor cluster testing, where if API queries were being forwarded within a cluster, the content length would go away because it was really becoming a streaming data query, and that would cause a bunch of issues with IncusOS's API that was actively looking at the content length in a bunch of places. So we effectively made a bit of a wrapper where we can read the query and then send it through the JSON decoder. And if the JSON decoder fails and the length at that point is 0, then we know it's an empty query and we can move on the same as we were doing with the content length earlier. So that's fixed that logic. Added an API. Added support in the CLI for installing applications. So that fits into, again, some of the stuff from last week with Linstor being its own application that needs to be installed. Now we've got the commands to handle that. It also makes it easy to install the debug application, which is convenient if you need the debugging tools. It used to be a bit of a pain to install. Now it's very easy. So that's a nice side effect. A few tweaks, because we also had folks that were showing weird logging messages because they had pre-existing ZFS pools on some drives, and IncusOS would detect them and try to bring them up, but then we didn't have a key, so that was causing weird errors. We've tweaked all of that so that we only try to import and use our own storage pools at this point and ignore everything else. So that cleans things up a bit. And now we've got the import pool command that's used for importing an existing pool if you need to reinstall the system, instead of just importing the key as we were doing before. What else do we have in there? Test recovery, because it's still the same PR. Some more tutorials and documentation tweaks. We had an issue with IOMMU on Intel platforms. So we've been tweaking the kernel boot parameters to try and turn everything on correctly. That should be fine now. I tweaked the documentation again about the application support effectively, where instead of telling people how to manually download the text editor and whatnot, I was just saying to use the debug application now, which brings that in when doing development. More documentation stuff, like more tutorials and just fixing kind of thing we've seen on GitHub, and then fixing a typo. So that's where we stand. Basically, been fixing a lot of the documentation, tweaking, adding sections, adding notes as we see people ask questions. Just basically so we don't need to have people look through the entire forum to figure out how to do something. We just make sure it's in the docs. Same thing with a lot of the fixes we've done, our fixes based on user feedback. Now, if we look, we've got milestones now, and the milestones, I think I've put dates on them, but it's basically the end of the month. So we've got a milestone here for 2025-12, which is due at December 4th, which is going to be the first Monday of December. And if we look at what's in there, we still have a few things to do, but making pretty good progress. So a couple of those are actually kind of related to early boot, initRD, what's in there. It's pretty difficult to figure out like when a machine doesn't boot, whether it's because it's missing a kernel driver or something like that. So we're improving our manifests to include that information so we can easily check what drivers are there, compare that to what drivers are loaded on the machine if the user just boots a normal Linux install. And then we can figure out what might be missing that's preventing a successful boot. So adding that, we're also adding kind of an automatic message that will show up on boot failure, giving more details about the hardware it detected, so that you can easily see what's missing and try and figure out what to do. Flasher tool, we've got a community member looking at porting it to Cobra and fixing a couple of issues with it. We've got a few places where we need to still better support the Ceph and Linstor stuff. Like right now, if you install Operation Center, you could technically then install Incus Linstor, which makes no sense because you're not using Incus. So we just need to put some extra logic around that so that you can't install applications that are meant as an extra set of features for another application if that other application is not installed. Still a bunch of improvements around update checking, downloading. There's still a few more errors that we're seeing on people with unreliable internet than we would like to see. So we want to tweak that a tiny bit. Same thing if you've got tight update windows that are configured and a check interval, which usually happens every 3 hours, every 6 hours, effectively ends up missing the update windows, then you never update. So there's a bit more tweaking to do around that so that it lines up better with the update windows. Some config tweaking we're planning on doing around the complexity requirement for the recovery keys, and also a lot of the code we use for applying OS updates and application updates is basically the same, just duplicated. So we want to clean that up. I still have NetBird I want to try and look at for this milestone. On the Operation Center side, we've got OpenFGA that we want to finish packaging, so that's still ongoing. We've had a PR open for a while. This one I should actually prioritize a bit further up. Let me just check where that should go. That should probably go here. Yeah. And this one too. That's just documentation, but should go a bit. There we go. So that's what I mentioned with the initRD message. That's extra documentation for dealing with additional pools, because we had a couple of users who then created pools directly through Incus instead of through IncusOS, which works fine, but then you don't end up with an encrypted pool. So if you want things to be properly safe and encrypted and tied to the TPM, you should go through IncusOS and then use the pool from within Incus instead of creating it directly in Incus. So that's what we've got for this milestone. And then we're going to have some of the more exciting stuff coming up for the January milestone. That's where I think I've got the OIDC stuff. Yeah, the public OIDC is scheduled for that time. Software TPM is also scheduled for that time. So there's some more nice things to look forward to on this one. Just checking what I'm seeing in the chat. So is there a way to import a raw image into a ZVol? I'm using IncusMigrate for now. I mean, that's basically how you do it. If you want to, it depends what the raw image. Yeah, so you're saying, okay, so you're downloading the raw image of IncusOS and want to install directly from that. Yeah, that's probably the way to go. That's gonna be the easiest way, is using IncusMigrate, which I've actually fixed some performance issues in there. So the Zabli packages have a much faster version of IncusMigrate now. Otherwise, 6.19 of Incus is gonna have that. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way to import a raw image directly into Incus. The other approach would be to attach it as an additional drive, bump the boot priority of it, and then use it that way. But if you do it with this method, then you don't use the root disk at all, which means snapshots and stuff of the instance become somewhat meaningless. So would not recommend that. IncusMigrate does it effectively the right way. Yeah. Question around VM image. Often it's actually the same user, just YouTube being confusing. It's like VM images of FreeBSD and Alpacata Linux. Yeah, so definitely IncusMigrate. That should work fine if they're pre-installed raw images. If they are an ISO for installation, then you can import that directly as a ISO custom volume and boot from that as an installer, and then go through the normal installation process. But if it's a pre-installed image, then IncusMigrate is kind of the way to go. Also, IncusMigrate supports QCAR2 imports, VMDK imports, and OVA imports. So if a given distro or a given OS provides existing images, you can probably also import them directly with IncusMigrate. All right, so let's look at what we're doing today. I don't actually have an issue open for that one, but let me see. I've got a new cluster effectively that's running Operation Center, IncusOS, and everything that I'm using for development. I just don't remember if this particular machine is really set up to mess with it, but anyway, we can see it here, Incus010203, Operation Center. I've got an ESXi as well and some other stuff. If we go look at these guys, there we go. So that's just using kind of a debugging interface thing. I think I should actually be, am I trusted on there? Yeah, I am. Okay, cool. So let's do it the right way. Incus remote add, and I just pick one of the IP addresses. So if I do dev, and what's the IPv6 for this guy? Here. I already have a remote dev. Okay, sure, fine. Let's remove that, add it. Cool. So now if I start interacting, actually I can create a secondary shell, zoom things a tiny bit for you folks, and just we want dev, and we want, there's an internal project on there I'm using for testing. Here we go. Okay, so this particular setup, I don't actually need the container and VMs, those I can blow away. Here we go. It's a cluster of 3 using IncusOS. It's got storage options, got a few. It's got the local storage coming directly from IncusOS. It's got LVM cluster, and it's got Linstor. And that was effectively one way to test the Linstor setup was with that guy. If we just do admin OS, hold on, this is my desktop I've not used in a couple of days. I'm guessing my CLI might be a bit out of date. I should probably fix that. Just gonna rebuild my local copy of the Incus CLI. Just take a sec. But I didn't do it in a little while. It's building a lot more than I expected. I think I might have changed the Go version. Is that what's going on? No, I'm a bit behind, I think. So that's not it. Anyway, I think the main pieces are done now. So Incus admin OS, service show Linstor. Here we can see it's basically just enabled on all addresses, no TLS or anything set up. I just kept it simple for now. But Linstor is operational on this particular cluster. Now, the problem I had, so if I go into one of those, say Incus01 here, we look at the ZFS layout. For Linstor to work, it actually needs its own dataset. So in this case, I've got local/Linstor, and it doesn't know how to create that for you. You can, when you manage Linstor through the central controller, you can do it. You can tell it to go and create a pool for you on a given machine and use some physical disks, but you can't tell it to create you a dataset on top of an existing ZFS. There's another weird thing, which is because of the way Linstor works and they've got their own encryption layer kind of on top of it, it doesn't work well with encrypted ZFS datasets. So if you just create a basic local/Linstor, it would fail as soon as you try to move some volumes back and forth between machines due to the ZFS encryption. So for that, actually, we can look at that. If I would list everything and I want to see the name and the encryption state, we can see that all of the Incus stuff and the root of the pool itself are all encrypted, but then it's been set to off for Linstor. So that was the trick I needed to do for this stuff to work. I'm actually checking something. Oh yeah, never mind, wrong project, but yeah, so now it's working correctly. I do have Linstor functional and everything, but obviously we can't have users need to run this stuff inside of Incus. You've got a backdoor into IncusOS, so you can run ZFS create. That's not really a viable option. So the idea is to add support in Incus OS itself to create those kind of datasets. We don't want to just, open the floodgates to people creating whatever dataset they want and with whatever ZFS configs they want. That's not really the point. We want something to be more opinionated. And so the idea is to add a couple of commands effectively create volume, delete volume within the storage API. And when you do create volume, you would pass in the name that you want. You'd pass in a optional size that you want in bytes, and you would pass in the usage of this thing that you want. So the usage would be a value of either Incus or Linstor, and based on that, we apply a specific config. That also means that if down the line we find better settings for Linstor or for Incus, we can, through an automatic IncusOS update, tweak those settings so that everyone benefits from it. So that's the general idea. Effectively, a couple of extra endpoints commands, and then showing the top level datasets directly in the storage API. So if I do system show storage right now, storage show, new version, we can see here in the states there's a pool. What else do we have? So those are the drives and pools. Yeah, okay. So that's the local pool. We can see how much space it has, all that kind of stuff. In here, we would then have like an entry for volumes, and then a list of volumes with their size, potential usage data, and some other details on that, as well as like their usage. So that's basically what I want to do. From what I remember, but I've not ever done it, ZFS, I believe, has a way to set arbitrary properties. Again, I've never used that before, but I think it does support that. Let me just check what the syntax is, because we'd want to use that as a way to record some of the details, specifically the usage value. Like, we don't want to store that in config. We'd rather have it be provided by the storage directly. So that's kind of the idea for that. But for that, I need to actually find the config key for this stuff. User properties, there we go. In addition to the standard native properties, ZFS supports arbitrary user properties. User properties have no effect on ZFS behavior, but application administrators can use them to annotate datasets. Okay, sure. User properties must contain a colon character to distinguish them from native properties. The main they may contain lowercase value, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So let's see if that works. So we should be able to do, so in this case, just list everything. And then we would have a property for like IncusOS use, which currently shows nothing. And then we would go and set IncusOS use equals Linstor on local/Linstor. And then IncusOS use Incus on local Incus. And yep, there we go. Now it's set in it. Perfect. Cool. So the first step really is going to be to modify the Incus, the logic we currently have within IncusOS for showing storage details to effectively get us the list of top levels, including effectively their name, their use, and their size effectively. So it's like, is it quota that we want? Yeah, so if we have a quota, effectively we could return it. Is that the property we usually set for that stuff? Otherwise, we can also get the details for like how much reference space is there. That we would want the kind of recursive value of it. I don't want to have to do maths on that. Again, let's see if we can figure that out quickly. There's reference and logical reference. Okay. Okay, so no, that still doesn't do what I want. I want. Does use include the? Yeah. Okay, so use includes the children. Okay, excellent. So yeah, that's what we would want then. Effectively reporting the disk usage as well as any quota that's there. And that should be enough actually for the data we need to report. Obviously, we don't need to actually make it recursive like it is right now. We need one level. we just do, yeah, okay. Don't know if there's a way to do just the one level. We'll have to see. Otherwise, we might need to do getting the properties to figure out what the children's are, and then go from there to figure out the rest. But I need to. I've not really looked much at that logic in IncusOS before. That's been something that Matthias has been working on. So let's go and take a look, see what exact commands it's currently running to get the details about the storage pool, and what we might be able to use. So just if I do this one, no, wrong one. Okay, actually that's not working. Incus remote, I want dev, Incus project, internal. Okay, so we basically want to find a code that does that. And that's gonna be inside IncusOS the internal REST API storage, system storage. Here we go. And let's see what it does for get. Okay, it calls get storage info from the storage package and just returns it. So I want to go look at that. Get storage info, here we go. Okay, so it does, first it does a zpool status JSON, and so it does this thing to get the list of the pools. It's fine. Does it ever do anything else? Not really. Okay, with ZFS get, is there like a children thing or something? No. Let's look at the ZFS props list again. It's not clones that we want. That's the one I usually look at, but it's really not clones in this case. We just want to know what's basically underneath us. Used by children. Okay, well, that's close enough, but that's the space. I just like a list of the children. Those are all the writable properties, so that's probably not it. Yeah, okay. Oh, there's a depth. Okay, so we can do that, I think. List recursive depth 1 local. Bingo. Okay, that's exactly what we want. Perfect. And then we want the name, the quota, so we wanted the usage, so it's used, and then our IncusOS use. Okay. And I don't remember if list supports the JSON formatting. That would be nice. Looks like it does. Okay. Because it's got the JSON int column, so that's good. And yeah, J would be JSON. Okay, so I can do this. And that does get us what we want. That's the command that's been run. That's the list of datasets. That is the main storage pool itself. Okay. IncusOS use value empty. Okay, it's not the easiest thing to parse, to be honest, but we should be able to make it work still. So let's just do that outside of the IncusOS code base for now. So just like a standalone tool that just effectively runs, well, takes that input and passes it. If we're happy with that, then I can just put that into the code, run the sub command, and pass the output, and that will be fine. So we're gonna want to do encoding JSON, and then that. data. So I'm just gonna dump that stuff into a variable so we can test it directly without needing the actual data. There we go. And then I would like to have the IncusOS code base nearby. IncusOS the internal storage go. Just want to see what he did for the zpool stuff. Okay, so there's a type here. So we're gonna want something similar. Let's go and do a new type zpool ZFS list data sets. So we do something like that. In there, we only care about the actual data sets list, which is a map string struct, similar to the other thing. I don't need to mention it's data sets. Okay. There's no such thing as state or anything in there. What we want to get is the name. What else do we need? The name, the quota, the used value, and the usage value. And I'm just checking the typing for that stuff, see if it's correct. Quota and used should be in integers. They are, we're good. And the rest should be strings, I guess, name. Yeah, the rest are going to be strings. Okay. So let's do that. I mean, this stuff would actually go further afterwards because the actual in the data sets, the way the structure actually looks like is a bit different than that. It's got, okay, properties. So it's a key value. It gives us the name of the data set. And then it's a list of properties, which includes the quota used. Don't know why the type shows up, but okay. Try oh, okay. It's not the easiest thing to read. I'm just gonna shove it at JQ because my brain's starting to hurt here. Okay, so that's the actual structure, the way it looks like. So we've got 3 data sets. Don't care about this one. We care about those, and then that gets us, so the name property is directly on the dataset itself. We also have the type and the pool it's on, that's fine. And then we've got the properties for quota, for used, and for our custom property. Okay, so we should be able to work with that. Now on the struct, it means datasets is what we care about. Then within dataset is a map string struct, that's correct. Then there is a property that is named that we need to grab. Like that. Don't care about the type, don't care about the pool, because we're running those directly against a specific pool, so that none of those are useful. And then we have properties, which is map string struct again, I think. Yeah, it looks that way. Map string struct again, here we go. And this would be just some properties like that. And then in here, we're gonna have the actual value, which is what we care about. And that one, the problems of the type does vary. So it's gonna have to be an any. We're gonna have to deal with that. Like that. And it's mad at me because, no, it's fine, okay. All right, so we should be able to impact into that thing. Should be able to do ZFS datasets, CFS list datasets. We can just call that datasets, I guess. Okay. And then do the JSON dot Marshall. Is it in Marshall? It's in Marshall, I think. And Marshall into datasets of the actual data here. And those need to go away or it won't build. Okay, so just complaining about the type being passed here. That won't really be a problem in the actual code because it will already be the right type, but let's just fix it anyways. Okay, so that did run. Now the question is, did it parse it correctly? So let's just dump the data. Oops, forgot to import format. Okay, so datasets, map, local dataset. Yeah, don't care about that one. Quota, value. Okay, local Incus, there we go. So Incus has a name of local Incus properties. Hold on, what am I doing here? Yeah, I don't actually need that one. That's redundant. So let's kill that. Okay, that's better. So local / Incus properties, maps, IncusOS use, value is Incus. Okay, so we got the IncusOS use is fine, quota is fine, used is fine. Okay, so we got the right variables, we're good. Now we want to shuffle that stuff into something that makes a bit more sense for the actual output. So it's, for us, it would be just a list of volumes effectively. So a storage volume would be a struct that has a name, that has a size, that can be 0, that's fine. That's got a used amount of space as well. And lastly, the actual use, which is a string. So we do that. Okay, and now we need to go and fill this stuff. So for name to basically properties, is that how it's unpacked now? So we're gonna go into the datasets, and datasets, they have the actual properties nested. Okay, so we do name entry range on datasets.datasets. Like that. And then for property, does the property name get included here? Yeah, okay. So prop name, let's make that entry name for consistency. And then properties. No, just call it prop, it's fine. Range onto entry dot properties, like that. And we need to actually put together a new volume here. So let's do that. This is a new storage volume. And we can already set its name, which would be the, like we need to strip the pool name effectively. Just thinking of what's the easiest way to do that. Yeah, if I just do it with trim prefix, that should be fine. So if we do entry name and we want to trim we know the name of the pool effectively. So in this case, in this example, it's local / that we want to trim. If we trim that, that should be fine. And then in the properties, if prop name is what do we have exactly? So we've got use. It's about. I mean, I should be able to do a select actually. Switch on that actually. So switch on prop name. Okay. Then we've got a case for use, case for used, and then a case for quota. Okay. And then for quota, what we need is the gets the actual value, which would be like this on property.value bank. Yeah, and we need to cast that to an int64. Or rather, if this is okay, then we need to set the volume dot size to the value. And then same thing here for used. I'd actually rather call it usage instead of used, to be fair. So let's go ahead and fix that. But need to align it with some of the other cool stuff we have. I might rename it again in a minute, but anyways. That, and then use here, this one is a string. So okay. So that should fill in what we want. And yeah, that will give us a volume. And then we want a list of volumes. So that's just storage volume like that. We want to append to that. Like so. And at the end, we want to show all of our volumes. So let's do this. And then fix what I did wrong. So entry name, yeah, typo here. Okay, so I should take care of that one. And then there's a volumes thing here because it's supposed to be volt. And I was missing strings. Oh, typing is really not going well today. There we go. Okay, so what do we get? Local, Incus, Linstor, but then we don't have any of the values in there. Okay. So it's as if this code here just did not do anything useful. Okay. And we also need to actually skip the entry name if it's the same as the pool. So if in this case it's the same as local, we should skip that. Now the question is what's going on here. Just gonna put a tiny bit of debugging. Okay, quota used. I mean, this one is clearly wrong. So IncusOS use. Okay, so now we've got the use value, and the other ones are an issue because of the type. So presumably they are not N64s. What are they? Are they just integers? Yeah, fine. No, they're not. Okay, that's getting annoying. Who knows what it unpack this stuff as? Float 64. Okay, sure, why not? Not the type I would have chosen there, but sure. So those I'm gonna keep as in64 because, come on, I'm not doing that. But we can extract them here as float64, that's fine. And then we're just gonna be doing an in64 conversion because, yeah, that makes more sense as a type. Here we go. All right, so now we've got values. That seems plausible. What was the actual usage for Incus? 203, that's the entire pool. 130 is what we want to see. That sounds about right. Yeah. Okay, so we're good as far as parsing this stuff. Now to add it to the actual API. I mean, there's actually a get partial already here. What does that? Where do we do that one? And, oh, we get the key status and we unpack it that way. And yeah, okay. I mean, that's pretty close to my type, isn't it? Let's see. Is there any difference in the ZFS stuff? Dataset properties values? No, it's exactly the same. All right, so we don't need to use that again. When we copy the code in, I will be able to just use that one. So that's good. What we do need to get is all of this chunk code over there. So. So that's the actually relevant part that I want. Come on, keyboard, behave. All right. So let's go look at what that partial stuff is being retrieved. It's here. Okay. So let's pull the data here. So get ZFS datasets and fill in volumes. Okay. Okay. And the unmarshal, we need to actually run a command for that. So I need to go and look at what was done here. Okay. That's fine enough. Oops. Okay. And that's where I need the actual ZFS list I was running earlier. What was that command? Just like that. Not sure what the variable is for the pool name, but I can take care of that later. The fields we do want, and then JSON and everything as integers. There we go. Let's just check that pool name thing, see if it's right. Z pool name, okay, close enough. So like that. And then that should get us the properties. So that's the partial properties here. So we'll do ZFS datasets instead. Unpack in there. Then grab the volumes and start filling in this stuff. like that. Obviously, anything that says local, we need to use the zpool name instead. That. Okay. And lastly, we're gonna need to do something like, oh, actually it's setting the volumes already, so we can just add the volumes in here basically. So instead of vols, that should just be zpool volumes. Okay. So that should do the trick on that front. Now the actual struct that we're filling in, where's that? There. The API system storage pool stuff that does not include custom type, so I need to fix that still. Which means like here, it should be a list of API system storage pool volume. And same thing here. System storage pool volume. Okay, and we need to then go in the. Okay, I don't actually need this guy anymore. I can get rid of that. IncusD API system storage. Okay, so that's a pool, and then we need a pool volume. Okay. So name is string, then we've got usage is in 64, size is in 64, and use is also string. Let me check the rest of the fields on the pool, just make things consistent. So raw pool size in, I guess that should be size in bytes and usage in bytes, I think. It does show allocated instead. Let's see if allocated makes sense for us, but that might be a better use then. And let's not do it in JSON so we can actually read this thing. Used, okay, allocated, what's that look like? Okay, that doesn't actually show up, so, okay. What's the properties using for allocated? Is it just alloc that is called? No. Alloc space, what's that? Yeah, I think it's something that makes more sense on the pool than it does on the volume. So I think that's why the name is different. Okay, so let's not worry too much about that. And we're just gonna do usage in bytes. Just checking term. Yeah, usage in bytes, size in bytes. That should make it consistent enough with the rest. Like that. Usage in bytes. Okay. Okay, so there's a problem with formatting in here somewhere. Yeah, here. Okay. That should be fine. Now let's go and edit this guy, and usage here should be in bytes, and size also in bytes. Okay. Now let's see what's wrong. Okay. Whoops, missing a comma here. Okay, now the rest is failing. Good. All right. Would have been kind of worrying if it didn't. ZFS, I mean, this one is not a get output, it's a list output, so let's fix that like that. And then I would say that doesn't really exist, so that becomes ZFS list output here. Okay, so the type is also does need conversion here too. Interesting. So let's do that. Okay. The error handling is wrong. It needs to return a empty struct as well. So let's do that. Okay. Yeah, so that's a slight difference in handling of that particular struct. Is just using it as always as a string, whereas we know it can be anything else. Yeah, it's quite the path to go and get this guy. Okay. I'll just call that zpool key status and then go and deal with that typing thing. Zpool key status here. And it's being, was it being retrieved again? It's retrieved here. Okay. So we should just go and do zpool key status of this as a string. And if that doesn't work, something along those lines. Okay, it's complaining a lot less. Unknown field volumes. Yeah, okay, so I still need to fix that in the API. Read-only fields. Yes, it's another one of those. Volumes is the list of system storage pool volume. Volumes, YAML, volumes, like that. That should actually build this time. Yes, it does. And now let's see static analysis, because that's the other thing that's usually getting mad at me. There we go. Let's see how much of that can get fixed easily. Quite a bit. Okay. So just left with these two. Internal storage. Still have my debugging in place, that's why. That's not good. So that needs to go away. And now enforce switch style. Switch must have a default clause. Sure. Let's put a pointless default clause in there. There. You happy? Not really. Okay. Yeah, wrong spot, I guess. Yeah, wrong spot. Let's try that again. Yay, no more issues, we're good. This is perfect. Now, let's just go and push that binary onto that test system real quick. So IncusD, IncusOS goes on Incus01 root. Okay, so I just need to sideload this guy now. Okay, and then restart IncusOSD. Okay, that's the one that's connected to it. If I do show, here we go, volumes, 2 volumes. Incus, Linstor, size in byte 0, so that's there's no quotas. Usage in bytes. I'm kind of tempted to rename the size in bytes to quota in bytes. I think the creation I will still ask for size, but when reporting, quota will be clearer, because right now you could treat size as the actual current size as in the use space, which is not what it is. Let's go and change that real quick. So size in bytes. Quota, it's fine. And then the other file, analyze these days there. Still have it open, really? Okay. So instead of size in bytes, it's quota in bytes. Yeah. Okay. And then go like CI lint in the right folder. Okay. And we'll be good. So I can mount this path in IncusOSD, remove the local binary, push the new one. There we go. And then bind mount this, restart the daemon. If I do show any day now, it just stopped. It doesn't show it started back. What the hell? Yeah. Oh. Oh, I think I know what's going on. There must have been a pending update to that VM. Like I'm using Operation Center that downloads the updates and then downloads them or applies them in the background. So I must have triggered a image download with the last refresh. If we go look at that, yeah, it's booting back up now. So it was just applying an update. Okay, that should just reconnects. Come on, network, do your thing. Or not, I guess. Okay. So we need to bind out the thing again. And then kill it. And it should start up cleanly this time. Yep. All right. So that's running. And now if we go and query it, name, quota, usage, use. Okay, cool. So that's fine. That part of the API is all good. Next would be to actually support creating stuff. Which shouldn't be that difficult. Basically, we need some extra actions, which, and first of all, I should probably commit what I have right now. So this is the debug file. This is then so in the API, we're adding system storage pool volume. Okay. And then in the the storage package, fill in volume data, that, good. Now the next step is gonna be API routes to actually create a volume. So that would be done in the REST package, system storage. If we look, there's gonna be a few endpoints in there already for that kind of stuff. So we want like we could use the lead pool actually as a template for that. So let's use that. So we take this function, all of it, there we go. And let's put them at the end, the volume stuff. So, okay. System, so the operation itself is gonna be create volume. So create volume here. System. Sidred is leaving. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll let you watch the rest later. But yeah, just adding some API routes, and then I'll probably wrap this up as well on my end and finish the rest offline. Just figured I would at least put the boilerplate for the 2 endpoints that we'll need. So yeah, creating volume, system post storage, create volume, and then create a volume. I mean, we're not gonna be making the descriptions too crazy. Creates a new storage pool volume data. Okay, the volume to be created object. There we go. So name my volume, size. We can do 0 for no quota, and use, and we can do use for Incus. So that's what the API looks like. And then that will be called create volume here. It's a lead pool. Okay. And then instead of the read struct, that's going to be create struct. Name, size, use. Like that. It's doing a bunch of extra stuff here. We don't really care too much about, I think. But config create struct. So no volume name provided. We want to check also for the usage field. So use, no volume use provided, and yeah, that was correct. Like that. Config.use. That would be another bad request. Invalid volume use provided. Okay. And we would want to go and create the volume. So we want ZFS dot create dataset, config that name, that's fine. And then we'd probably make a key value type thing to pass the different properties. So we want let's just do props like that. Okay. So the use is always set effectively because that we have config.use, and then if config.size is positive, then we set the size as well. Like that. Okay, then we pass all the properties through, and that should be it. I don't expect that to build because I don't think create dataset is actually a thing that exists. So I need to go and fill that in. But the rest is basically the concept. So let's import slices is missing. It's fine. Config size int. Yeah. Okay, just need to convert that one. That. Is there an I64-2A or something? I'm just gonna be lazy and use format. Yeah, I'm just gonna be lazy, so let's just do that. Also don't have format. Okay. So mismatch now, sweet. sprintf, yeah. Okay. And now we need the create dataset function to actually exist. Inside the ZFS package, ZFS here. What do we have? Load pools, create zpool, destroy zpool, update zpool. Checking if there's anything dataset related. Doesn't look like. Okay. Okay, so let's take, I don't know, destroy zpool as an example, but that's fine. I mean, it's just a run command context that we need. So, okay, fine. I'm just going to implement it from scratch. So function for create dataset. We want a context. We want a, oh, actually we're gonna need the pool name as well. Okay, so we need the pool name string, volume name string. Actually name string, we'll just put for that one. String, and then properties, which is a map of string. Like that, and we return an error. Right now we just don't. And then if I go back here, we do need a config.pool. Okay, need to add that in here. Okay, and then on validation for that too. Okay. Hey, it builds. It's not gonna work because there's no actual logic in there, but it builds. So here what we basically need is a sub-process run command context of ZFS and then a arguments list. So I'll do something like that. And I can basically return the response. Now, the argument list is where we need to have a bit of fun. So it's obviously create, then it's pool name slash volume name. That's the easy part. And then we need a set of properties to add after that. For key value going over properties, args, append of effectively -o, k equals v, something like that. Oops, branch. Okay, so that's basically what we need. Now there's one more tweak I need to do, and I'll probably just do it here, but we need to set an extra property. So if config.use is Linstor, Linstor doesn't support encryption, so we need to do props encryption off, like that. And then let's see if that stuff works. Okay. Okay. All right, so this is running fine. Now I'm gonna need to use there's no command yet, so use the lower level command to access it. 1.0 system storage, that's getting me the same data. And now I should be able to actually access create as the dash. Oh, actually, never mind, the plumbing is not in place. It's in server, I think, is it? Yeah, it's there. Okay, so we need to actually do the connection here for create volume. Create dash volume is this function. Okay, and let's do that dance again. So unmount, remove, push, mount, restart, and check it works. It does. And now create volume says not implemented because I'm not posting to it. If I post empty, it's cannot unmarshal. Okay. If I pass an empty data, then no pool name. So let's go pool local name is foo, use is Linstor. There we go. So failed to run ZFS create local /foo or Linstor or encryption off. Invalid property use. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go and fix that. So the use property is not that's not the correct name. Obviously, it's IncusOS use. That's the correct name. Now remove. Oh, wrong order. And mount. Push this guy. Mount. Restart. Check that it's answering. It is. Push the data. Did not fail. That's good. And if we do show, we have foo of use Linstor. Yay! Usage in bytes. Basically nothing. So that did work. It created that thing just fine. And if we look for the encryption, foo should not have it. Yep, we're good. So that's fine. And now let's just do another test. So if I create bar, and this one we say we want it for Incus, and I want a size of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Invalid property size. Okay, so it is quota that we need to map this to. That makes sense. Let's go and fix that. So let's map that to quota. And mount, remove, push, mount, restart, and try the thing again, and that worked. Okay, let's go check. Bar is encrypted. Yay. And if we go look at quota values, it should have a quota. Yep, all good. Tiny one, but that's what that value expands to. So that's fine, we're good. Then the only thing that's left is deletion. So let's just make sure that this is looking fine. So static analysis. Why is it not working? What did I type? Or yeah. Golang CI will probably find something to complain about. Oh, I'm in the wrong code base. I'm like, why is it taking so long? It's because I'm not in IncusOS. There we go. All right, so Golang CI then run in fix mode. Fix as much as we can. Okay, and we just have a function command to fix. Okay, should be happy now. It is. Cool. So let's go and commit that stuff. IncusOS ZFS add create set ZFS and then REST API add create volume in the rest of the code. All right, and that leaves us with basically deletes left. So that's gonna be basically more of the same, a bit less validation needed. So we add the delete volume. Just gonna sort this stuff. Here we go. System storage. It's still open. Okay. And again, let's do the API description here. So delete volume, storage post, storage, delete volume. Okay, its description is delete a volume. Delete a storage pool volume. Body, the volume to be deleted. I'm gonna put a force field in the struct. That will make sense. Oh, actually, I just noticed I messed something up earlier. The API description here is missing the pool field. So I have to go fix that. Okay, let's do it like that. We're good. And the volume to be deleted, that's good. And then change the function name. Delete volume. Delete struct, we just want pool name force. Just checking, I'm getting a bunch of notifications. I want to see what's going on. Okay, don't care, don't care. Yeah, nothing critical, all good. So force, I want a boolean for the force field here. This has now become delete struct. Let's change that. We unpack the thing, no pool name, no volume name. That's the only validation needed. Okay. Then we want delete the volume. Props doesn't matter, we're gonna get that stuff. And it's delete dataset config and config force that we push through. Okay. Let's just see, does Golang CI feel like fixing anything? Yeah, the function doesn't exist. I know. That's what's gonna be the next step. And let's just put some boilerplate for now. Oh, might as well implement it really, because it's not exactly going to be difficult. So delete dataset. Should actually be remove datasets to match the naming. Removes a dataset from unspecified pool. We don't have properties, but we do have force. Like that. It's destroy, actually, it's not remove. Just remembered. It's destroy datasets that we want. And it looks like this. And then if force is given, we want to do args recursive to go and clear stuff. Actually, we want the extra recursive, I think. Yeah, that should be fine. Now, what does Golang think of this? Dirty dataset still doesn't exist yet because it became destroy. So let's go and fix that one. Destroy dataset. No issues. That's good. Let's make that binary. Go here. Unmount the thing. Remove it. Push the thing. Mount it. Restart the thing. And then try to go and delete our two volumes. So we want to delete bar. And we want to delete foo with extra force being applied. Okay. And they're gone. That worked pretty well. Cool. Now to just clean up the thing. So that's just a typo fix. And then the rest. We want to do ZFS and destroy dataset. There. And then the API and delete volume. Okay, what's the target? Probably not in the wrong folder. Yeah, there we go. Need to regenerate the Swagger documentation thing. Okay. Don't know what we usually call it. Doc update REST API YAML, sure. The CLI needs an update as well. So it's in the CLI system, delete pool. If we go look at that. Yeah, I want all of that section here. This command has not been updated. Oh, this command here, import full command. Okay. Just fixing that one while I'm there. Okay, so we want a delete storage volume. Yeah, we need to rename that stuff too. So that one should actually be delete full. Okay, delete volume. So delete the storage volume. The API action is delete volume. System storage needs data. Delete the storage volume. Yeah, we're good. And now we need to do create as well. Which is pretty similar. Create storage volume. Create volume CMD. And create, no confirmation because it's creation. Okay. So now let's go and update that list. Set this one is delete pool. It's followed by delete volume cmd. And we have a create volume cmd preceding it. There we go. Let's see if that builds. Yeah, does. Good. Make static analysis. See if there's any issue. Nope, all good. Create volume and delete volume. Okay. And documentation. Let's go see what we have. Basically, anywhere we've got delete pool. Okay, that's already documented correctly. That's not the issue. Just checking what we have for reference in the storage. So doc reference system storage. So that's the config. Okay. Managing volumes. It's possible to create and delete volumes within a storage pool. Each volume has its own name. Ceph and Linstor. And name quota and use. Okay, so Bernard, the list of volumes are visible directly in the storage state data. Creating and deleting volumes can be done through the CLI with actually, I don't think we see CLI in documentation. I think we see command line with, and then example, and we'll do IncusOS system, system storage, create volume, and then data pool local. Apparently we don't believe in spaces in that documentation. Okay, so let's do that. Name my volume, use install. Let's do that, and then show how to delete it. It will be basically the same thing. Delete volume. My volume, like that. Okay, so that does cover some of that. It's possible to create and delete volumes within the storage pool. Each volume has its own set of properties. List of volumes are visible directly. Okay. IncusOS automatically creates a new Incus volume in when setting up the local storage pool. Okay. Okay, so that gets that added. Was there anything else that needed to be done as part of this? Don't think so. Like if someone passes an invalid pool or anything, they'll get an error directly from ZFS, so we don't really need to do too much about it. Yeah, oh, actually there was one thing I wanted to do, but I don't know how easy it is to do. I might do it off stream. Basically, we want to go and bump the state version. Is it in upgrades that the schema is? No, it's not. Upgrade state internal file. That's what the version is here. Okay, so we need to bump this and then effectively do a migration to add the extra property on existing datasets. Because if you just start a system that was already created, it won't have the new IncusOS use property set correctly on its volume. It only has a single volume, so it's easy. We can just run it as a single command, but something needs to be done. So v7 apply the IncusOS use property on the local Incus dataset. Okay, so we don't need to do that much in here. But we do need to run a command. So don't care about the output, but we do care about that. So process dot, do we have context in here? Upgrade function, no, there's absolutely nothing. Okay. So just run command then. ZFS set local incus. I think it's the property first. So it's IncusOS use equals incus on this property. There. If that fails, please fail the schema update. There we go. Something like that. And so if I make IncusOSD, yeah, we didn't have the process imported, so let's do that. GitHub Incus v6 shared the process. All right, and now let's go and test it. So to test it, I need to actually go and clear my current property, because right now I do have it set. The Linstor stuff that I need to leave because there was no way someone could have done that by hand. But on the local Incus one, I need to clear it. So IncusOS use empty on local Incus. Yeah, that did the... okay, it's empty, it's not cleared. That's not the same thing. Is there an unset? How does that step work? Inherit is what I want, because that would just make it get that value from the parent instead. So let's just do that. Okay, there we go. Now we're correct. Cool. So I do have the binary. Let's do the usual dance. Add mount, remove, push, bind mount, restart, and it's starting up. And in theory, yeah, we're good. There's just one thing I don't like with that is I think the state fixing might be running too early for the pool to actually exist. Yeah, it might be a problem. How do we handle that later on? Bit of a tricky one. I think I'm gonna open the PR as it is, but then get Matthias to give me some pointers on how he thinks we should handle that one. Because I don't think that's gonna work. I just wanted to actually run the tests, because we've got a bunch of stuff related to upgrades in the test suite. I went a bit aggressive with the -x here. Just do v. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. It's trying to actually run the ZFS command in test mode, which is not a good idea. Yeah, we're going to need to do that step differently. Yeah, I think I'll push it as it is and then just have the discussion with Matthias. So anyway, yeah, IncusOS state apply IncusOS use on upgrade. Okay. Oh, and I'm not in the right branch. Let's notice that now. That's bad. Okay. So if I compare IncusOS, and that's with everything from today. I'm gonna just ping Matthias in there. Okay. Seriously? I forgot to sign off on one of the comments. Apparently I did. That's unusual. Let me check my commits. Which one did I mess up? Oh yeah, I've got a random A commit, which is just a fix up. So it's a fix up for. Actually, I think it's for right there. I think it's for the API. So we can just apply that and then push force the rest, and we should be good to go. So I just need to sort out that upgrade thing with Matthias, but otherwise we should be good here. All right, well, thanks a lot for watching. With this piece in place, we'll actually be able to fully use Linstor with IncusOS. Effectively, you would use that API to create a new volume with the right role, then enable the Linstor service, and then enroll the machine as a satellite within Linstor. And lastly, you can create a storage pool on the Linstor side, give it the name of that pool and dataset that's been created, and then you can effectively use it and then add it to Incus. So yeah, basically it was a missing piece for when I was doing my own Linstor setup here. So that's gonna clean that up, avoid one more situation where I needed to go kind of behind the scenes and find a workaround to make it work. That's gonna clean that up. And we've got a bunch more work currently ongoing that's gonna be landing over the next few days. So next week is going to be an Incus release week, so no live stream, but the week after I should be able to resume with the normal weekly live streams. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section, or you can go on the community forum where we've actually added support for live chat recently and been using that quite a bit over the past few days. So yeah, feel free to make use of that. We're trying to transition away from IRC and onto everyone using the forum for that. Just so we've got both normal forum posts, direct messages, and chats all in one place. All right. Again, thanks a lot for watching. See you all in the next one. Bye.